This is the story of a weapon failure so catastrophic it nearly lost World War II. A secret so dangerous, they buried the truth for 80 years. It's a story of desperation, deception, and a fatal flaw that turned a miracle weapon into a suicide device. The year is 1943. The tide of the war is turning, but at a horrific cost. Allied troops are pushing into occupied Europe, but the open battlefields are giving way to a new kind of hell. Close quarters urban combat. Every street, every building, every window is a potential death trap. Soldiers are being cut down by unseen enemies, pinned by machine gun nests they can't flank. The brutal geometry of city fighting means that whoever can control the corners controls the battle. But standard rifles are useless against an enemy you can't see. Allied command is desperate. They need a game changer, a weapon that can defy the laws of physics, a gun that can shoot around corners. Enter the bent barrel attachment. On paper, it was a stroke of genius, a simple curved extension that could be fitted onto a standard issue rifle. Engineers and tacticians were ecstatic. The device promised revolutionary advantages. A soldier could remain safely behind a wall while firing into an adjacent street. Trenches and bunkers could be cleared without a single man exposing himself to enemy fire. It was hailed as the key to unlocking the stalemate of urban warfare. Military command, seeing a silver bullet for their deadliest problem, poured millions into its development, fast-tracking the project with unprecedented urgency. They envisioned a future where Allied soldiers were untouchable, ghosts in the machine of war. But the first field tests revealed a horrifying truth. The elegant theory collapsed against the brutal laws of physics. A bullet traveling at over 2,000 feet per second doesn't like to turn. Instead of gracefully gliding around the curve, the rounds shattered upon impact with the interior wall of the barrel. The result was catastrophic. The bullet didn't just fail to exit, it disintegrated into a spray of molten lead and razor-sharp metal fragments. And where did that shrapnel go? Straight back, out of the breach, directly into the face of the soldier firing it. The miracle weapon was a suicide device. The very tool designed to protect them was turning their own rifles against them. The project was an unmitigated disaster. The generals and politicians who had championed it, who had promised a swift end to the bloodshed in the cities, were now facing a monumental failure. Their miracle weapon was worse than useless. It was a liability. But admitting a mistake of this magnitude, in the middle of a world war, unthinkable. The potential damage to morale, the political fallout, the sheer embarrassment, it was too much to bear. So instead of pulling the plug, they chose a different path: denial. A wall of secrecy was erected around the project. All documents, test results, and injury reports were stamped top secret. They buried the project so deep that even most military historians never learned the truth, hoping the memory of the bent barrel would simply fade away. But the cover-up was only the beginning of the betrayal. The project wasn't just buried, it was kept alive in the shadows. Driven by a desperate hope they could somehow fix the fatal flaw, or perhaps just to justify the millions already spent, commanders ordered the testing to continue. But they weren't using engineers anymore. They forced frontline soldiers to test increasingly dangerous prototypes. Young men, told they were contributing to a vital war effort, were handed these defective weapons and ordered to fire them. Dozens were injured. Some suffered grievous facial wounds, others were permanently blinded. Each incident was quietly documented, and then the records were systematically destroyed. The careers of high-ranking officers were deemed more important than the eyesight and safety of the men under their command. But you can't hide the truth forever. One engineer, a man who had been there since the project's optimistic beginnings, couldn't live with the lies. Racked with guilt over the injuries he knew were happening, he risked everything, his career, his freedom, even a charge of treason, to expose the truth. Working late at night, he secretly copied the damning documents, the initial designs, the catastrophic test results, the classified injury reports, and the memos ordering the cover-up. He compiled a dossier proving that commanders knew the weapon was lethally flawed, but continued testing anyway, sacrificing their own men to protect their budgets and reputations. He sent the package to a trusted contact in Congress, setting in motion a secret inquiry that would rock the military establishment to its core. The Bent Barrel project was officially and quietly terminated. It was a catastrophic failure born of desperation. But ironically, this disaster actually saved lives. The undeniable failure forced military scientists and engineers to abandon the fantasy of a magic bullet and focus on real, practical solutions to the problem of urban combat. The resources once wasted on the Bent Barrel were redirected. This pivot led to the rapid development and deployment of rifle-launched grenades, improved portable mortars, and advanced suppressive fire tactics. These were the innovations that truly gave soldiers an advantage in close-quarters fighting. In a strange twist of fate, the project's complete and utter failure cleared the way for the very breakthroughs that would help win the war. It's a story from 80 years ago, but the pattern is chillingly familiar. The same cycle repeats today, not just in the military, but in boardrooms, in government, and in tech. Leaders become fixated on a single, flawed idea, pouring billions into projects that are doomed from the start. When the inevitable failure occurs, the first instinct is not to learn, but to hide. To manage the narrative, to conceal the data, to sacrifice safety and integrity for the sake of appearance. From faulty software pushed to market to massive infrastructure projects that are fundamentally unsound, the Bent Barrel teaches us a timeless and costly lesson. Denying reality never works. The truth always has a price, but the price of a lie is always higher. For decades, the story of the Bent Barrel rifle remained locked away in classified archives. But secrets don't last forever. Only now, thanks to recently declassified documents, are we learning the full truth. Historians and researchers are piecing together the puzzle from faded memos, redacted reports, and the brave testimony of the engineer who risked it all. These files don't just tell the story of a failed weapon, they reveal the anatomy of a cover-up, the pressure to succeed at any cost, and the courage of the few who fought to expose it. The Bent Barrel wasn't just a failed weapon, it was a critical lesson, paid for in blood and buried by shame. It teaches us that desperation is a poor substitute for sound engineering, that institutional pride can be more dangerous than the enemy, and that truth, no matter how long it takes, eventually emerges. It reminds us that progress isn't a straight line. Sometimes the greatest leaps forward don't come from a brilliant success, but from having the courage to admit complete and total failure.